Hello, friends. I am Chevee. Welcome to my shed. How are you doing? How's life where you are? How's things in your part of the world? I hope everything's going well. Things here are wonderful. Today was a work from home day. Got quite a bit done. Excited about that. And I just finished dinner, so it's nice. It's nice when you get, like, I don't have that drive time, so it kind of saves me time. I've been talking about it for the last few days. So we're going to talk about the last, well, not the last two. Well, yeah, book 2 and 3 of the Ransom Riggs, Miss Peregrine's Peculiar Children series. There's 4 of these, but I guess the new series kind of it's a standalone story. But I mean it picks up right where this left off, but I'm not going to read book 4 until book 5 and 6 are done. And I might not even read them after that, because I'll tell you why. So, book 1, I did a review for that already a couple weeks ago. I will link it in the description if you're interested in hearing what I thought about part 1. Part 2 and 3, man. This is book 2. This book is bad in so many ways. It is such a terrible book. It is not a good read. It's not fun to read. It's not interesting to read. There's very little information in here that's actually worth a darn. You kind of... I feel like you could have... This book could have been condensed into a chapter or 2 and just put into the second book, and that'd been it. It's very obvious, the first book, which was actually called Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children or whatever. That book was written on a premise that the author had a bunch of pictures, and he decided to use those pictures to tell a story. And so it meanders a little bit because the pictures don't all line up, and you could tell that he was a new author because his character structure and the story arc structure and all that stuff was a little odd, but it was a good book. It was a fun read, and it left you kind of like, that's neat. Like, I like the concept of everything. This book is really obvious that it was written the other way around. He tried to write a story and then tried to find pictures and then went back and revamped to fit the pictures. So he had a plan for where the kids start this book and where they end this book, and then the pictures needed to fill in. The problem is it's just boring. It's just chapter after chapter after chapter, and every single chapter is they get 2 steps forward and then, oh, no, we're screwed, and we go back, and then 2 steps forward, oh, we're screwed, and go back, and literally none of it has anything to do with anything. It's completely useless information. There's maybe a couple of sequences where you get to see the kids use their powers to a heightened ability, and that's neat. But it never comes up again. They never use those powers again. So it's kind of like, that was okay. I didn't need that. And so it's just this really dry cycle of forward, back, forward, back, forward, back, forward, back, forward, back, forward, back. Oh, we got to the end. And guess what? It's all screwed. And it's just bad. It's just a really bad book. It's not worth reading. Really disappointing. I'm not even joking when I say you could probably just skip this book and go straight on to book 3 and you wouldn't feel weird. I mean, you would, because they reference some of the stuff that happens in here. But the thing is, like I said, there's like 10 pages of stuff in here that's actually useful, and the rest is just junk. Now, that being said, Library of Souls, I really enjoyed the book. I read it pretty quickly because it was fun. It was just a fun book. It had a lot of the same, like, we make it 10 steps forward and we have to move back 7. But it wasn't nearly as grueling as book 2. Book 2 was kind of, if I could describe it in video game terms, book 2 was the, like, grindy, I'm trying to level up before I can attack that dungeon. Like, it's just boring. It was not a good, fun read. Book 3 is the attack of the dungeon. And it was fun. It was really fun. I enjoyed this book a lot. I enjoyed reading it. I had fun reading it. The pictures in this book, I feel like at this point you just kind of stop with the whole picture thing. Like, I think one of the things that bothers me Now, looking back, is that the pictures are of moments in the book, not like pictures of the characters outside of that moment, pictures of that moment. Like, he would write a description of a picture and then show you that picture. And it's kind of weird because there's no photographers in the book. There's nobody taking these pictures. So why do these pictures exist? I don't know. And that feels weird. So I kind of wish that, maybe explain it, maybe have somebody actually there who's taking these photographs, or why do these photographs exist. It's more or less just a way for the author to show you his research, maybe? I don't know. But it was fun. And I don't want to say that it redeemed book 2, because I don't know that you could. Like, it's just a really bad book. But this book is really fun on its own. And if you have, the story from book 1, and you could read like a super condensed Cliff Notes of book 2 and then go straight into book 3, I think it'd be a really enjoyable reading experience. I would honestly, if I was going to suggest somebody to read this series, I would say just skip book 2 completely and just read a synopsis and then just move on, because it's just frustrating. But I think that there's room to grow, and the books, this series leaves off kind of with I don't want to say a teaser, but it's like, okay, there's places to go and things to do now. The main character gets to kind of have it both ways. Part of the series is that this character can live with these peculiar people, or he can live with his family, and it's kind of this, he can't decide. And at the end, he gets to live both ways. So there's room to grow with that, and I'm sure that the next trilogy will show a lot more of that, but where it ended, I felt like I was comfortable with the ending, just leaving it at that. Like, it was a good, solid ending. I did figure out that, like, the main character has an ability to see these invisible creatures. That's his peculiarity. Okay, but these invisible creatures have only existed for like 100 years. So he's like, why does this peculiarity exist if these creatures are only 100 years old? Well, there's a character who tells him, well, maybe that's just the recent manifestation of your ability. Maybe there's more to your ability, but that's what you know, because that's what you can see, and that's what you can do that's special. And, so I was, like, down to the last, like, I don't know, 10th of this book, and they still hadn't explained any of it. And I was just like, well, this is weird. Like, I expected it to be a little bit more... I expected a little bit more explanation that it didn't give. Ultimately, it kind of did. It kind of revealed everything in a few short sentences, which felt a little... I wanted more, but really, when the story wraps, it's time for it to wrap. Like, you're done with these characters. Let's move on. So, yeah. I think that I definitely could recommend it if you're interested in kind of a story that is very different from other stories that you've read. But if you are an avid reader, read it, because you might get something out of it. If you're not an avid reader and you're just looking for it because it seems interesting to you, I would suggest maybe read the first book and decide where you land. Like, don't just go buy them all, because the first book could be a pretty decent just standalone story, and you just leave it at that. Yeah. And if you want to watch the movie is nothing like the books. They change a whole lot, a whole lot. It's an interesting film, but it's not a representation at all. And, that's the standard way that books and movie books work. But in this particular instance, the movie is nothing like the books, like at all. Basically nothing about it, other than there's characters that have some special abilities. The rest of the story is almost completely fabricated for the movie. So maybe just watch the movie. I don't know. But I can say that I enjoyed reading them. I'm glad I did. But I'm also excited to move on to something that's more interesting. So that's all I have to say. Thank you for being here as always. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, being amazing friends, being wonderful people. I hope to see you again tomorrow.
Hey, Doc, wait! I want to ask you something.
Today's random fact comes from Wikipedia. What countries are in East Asia? The UN subregion of Eastern Asia and other common definitions of East Asia contain the entirety of the People's Republic of China, Japan, North Korea, South Korea, Mongolia, and Taiwan. Culturally, China, Japan, Korea, Taiwan, and Vietnam are commonly seen as being the encompassing culture of East Asia.